Hey boys and girls, happy Friday. It's your pal Mr. Thayer checking in with you on our Friday lesson. I thought today, since we were wrapping up our unit, that we'd have a little fun today and we would read a story and talk about concept of print. I'd like to go over a couple of things that you have to know before you go to first grade next year. So I want to go over a couple of those, and I figured Pete the Cat would be a great read aloud to do just that. So today's just going to be a fun read aloud. We're going to talk about a few things, and we're going to have a little bit of fun on this Friday. So the first thing I want to talk about is, and we've probably talked about this before, is author and illustrator. The author writes the story. That is the person who puts the words on the page and writes the story. There also, you will see an illustrator. An illustrator is, yes, the person who draws the pictures in the stories that we read. So author and illustrator, very important. And two things you need to know when we go over our stories. Author writes the word, illustrator draws the pictures. All right? There's three other important topics that I want to go over before we read our book as well. The next topic I want to go over is setting. All right? Setting is where the story is taking place. All right, where is the story? Is it at the mall? Is it on the moon? Is it in the ocean? Is it at a house? Is it during the day? Is it at nighttime? These are all parts of a setting, where the story takes place. I like to put the words when and the words where. When I'm talking about setting, I like to use those questions to help me find out. So today in our story for Pete the Cat, I want you to think about where Pete the Cat is. Also, look for the time of day. Is the sun out? Is it dark? Think about the time as well. So that is setting. Another topic I'd like to cover today is characters. The people or animals that are in the story or that the story is about. I like to use the word who when we talk about that. Who is in the story? Who is doing the talking? What is going on? Remember, characters are people that are actually doing the things in the story, all right? Sometimes you'll see pictures of other animals or people in the story, and they're not really doing anything, so they're not really the main characters. The main characters, like Pete the Cat. Pete is going to be a character in the story. He's going to be doing his thing, and we know that he's going to have some actions in the story. So character, when we talk about that, we talk about who. And last but not least, this one's a little bit trickier, but the word is plot. What is the story about? What is going on in the story? What is happening? All right, every story has a meaning or a situation that's going on. What happened? How did the characters do something? Was there a problem? Did they fix it? What was going on in the story? That is what plot kind of tells us, what is going on. And again, I have the word what right here because what helps us to answer this question. All right, so we have character, setting, plot, author, and illustrator, and then without further ado, we're going to rock Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. This is a good one. My daughters love this one. Let's see how this one goes. Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Written by Eric Litwin, who is the author, and art by James Dean. He's the creator of Pete the Cat. Pete the Cat put on his favorite shirt with 4 big, colorful, round, groovy buttons. He loved his buttons so much, he sang this song. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. There they are. Pop! Oh no! One of my buttons popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 3. 4 minus 1 equals 3. Check out that number sentence down there. We've talked about number sentences before. 4 minus 1 equals 3. Groovy. Did Pete cry? Goodness no, buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song, my buttons, my buttons, my 3 groovy buttons, my buttons, my buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. There he is with 3 groovy buttons on his raincoat. Pop! Oh no! Another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 2. 3 minus 1 equals 2. There's that number sentence. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song, my buttons, my 2 groovy buttons, my buttons, my 2 groovy buttons. There's that math sentence, there's that number sentence right there. 2 groovy buttons are left on the raincoat. Here comes the ice cream truck. Pop! Oh no, another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? Just 1. 2 minus 1 equals 1. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song, my buttons, my 1 groovy button, my 1 groovy button. Just 1 left. Just 1 left. Pop! Oh no. The last button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 0. 1 minus 1 equals 0. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. Pete looked down at his buttonless shirt, and what do you think he saw? His belly button! And he kept on singing his song. It's all good. My button, still have my belly button, my button, still have my belly button. There's Pete's belly button right there. I guess it simply goes to show that stuff will come and stuff will go. But do we cry? Goodness no. We keep on singing. Buttons come and buttons go. And that's the end of our story. Pete the cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Hope you guys liked that story. Characters in the story were very simple. It was only Pete the cat. He was the only character that was there. And the setting kind of was outside. If you noticed, at some point Pete was on the beach. He was getting ice cream with the ice cream truck. He was actually inside. So you could say that the setting was inside and outside. During the day, Pete was kind of all over the place. And the plot, what the story was about, was Pete, you guessed it, losing his groovy buttons. Did that get him down? Was Pete sad about losing his buttons? Nah. He said it was all good, not to worry, because buttons come and buttons go. Very good. Remember, the author writes the story. The illustrator draws the pictures. We reviewed setting, characters, and plot today. It was a pleasure reading to you guys. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Make sure to get outside, get some fresh air, and practice. Have a great weekend. I miss you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy.